Today we're going to be talking about supporting students with disabilities. So the primary thing we're going to be talking about is the difference between high school and college for students with disabilities and how you can get services when you're outside of high school in your life beyond high school. I want to talk about what's called post-secondary education options. So you can go on to college or you have some other option. So first thing would be vocational or career training. Okay. Primarily, this could include joining a union and getting career training, or it could be going to a specialized program that would teach you how to do something like plumbing or heating. So this would be considered vocational or career training. These would be for specialized trades or jobs. Example I said would be plumbing or heating, so like HVAC. These experiences are going to be more hands-on, so if you do a really good job working with your hands and learning in, on-the-job training, this is going to be a good option for you. The other thing too is the length of these programs is only going to be 6 months to 2 years. So you're going to kind of be in and out, learn what you need, and then you'll be able to go get a job and have a decent living wage to be able to support yourself. If you want a little more training and you kind of want the college experience, you can go on to a 2-year school or a community or junior college. Now, when I say 2-year school, that means you're getting everything in a short amount of time. But for a lot of people, that's going to be a little longer, and it really depends on the program that you choose to go into. So this would be an associate's degree. So this option is going to provide a flexible schedule. It's going to work around your life and your work commitment. So the biggest thing I tell students is you're used to going to school at 7:20 in the morning, getting out at 2:26. With college, it's a completely different game. The most popular class is a 10 a.m. class. So you might not start school till 10 a.m. You might go 1 or 2 days a week. You don't go 5 days a week. And you can also take night classes. You can even take an online class or a class on the weekend. So you can get an associate's degree. The other option you have is a certificate program. So if you're looking to go into something like phlebotomy, which is drawing blood. So you're not quite a nurse, but you get to work in that hospital setting. You can do that. If you're looking to work in a trade, like learn how to weld or just do like auto body repair, a certificate program would be good for you. They also offer specialized degree programs, so like criminal justice or nursing would be examples of where you get a 2-year degree and then you get some more specialized training in which you can go get a career. The other big advantage of these is they also provide transfer opportunities for going on to like a 4-year school. A 4-year school, an example would be like a bachelor's degree. So bachelor's of arts or bachelor's of science. Good thing about this is once you get that 4-year degree, you have a lot of flexibility with your career. One thing you'll learn is a lot of people that go to get a job in one career area might get a job in something completely different. Okay. Personal example, I went to school for advertising and marketing. Never got a job in it. I ended up working as a teacher's assistant in the school, and I really liked it, and I ended up getting a degree in special education and being a teacher, okay? But because I had that 4-year degree, it gave me some flexibility when I wanted a career change. Then you could also go on to graduate school, which is basically like more college. An example of people that would go on for like a graduate school would be like a law degree, something like a nurse practitioner, or sometimes like a business degree like an MBA. So you're wondering, why does this impact me? Okay, we're going to talk about that. So the difference between high school and college. In high school, when you first started, your case manager, or if there was 2 teachers in the classroom, they came up to you and they said, hey, what do we need to do to help you be successful in class? So they might have offered you the ability to go take a test in another room, giving you notes. So to kind of talk about this, students that are identified by the school. So it was up to the school to come find you and find out what you need. The primary responsibility for arranging accommodations belongs to the school. So what does that mean? That means that like if you needed more time on a test, if you needed stuff reduced, the number of choices reduced, so instead of getting like 4 answers on a test, you only got 3. If you got a word bank on a test, it was up to the teacher in that class in the school to arrange that for you. Teachers approach you believing that you need assistance, okay? So you're probably used to everybody asking, do you have a question? That's how the teacher is kind of told to respond and work with you. The other thing too is the parents have access to all your records. they're still legally your guardians and they're the ones that are responsible for you. And the parents advocate, or they will reach out and try to get help for you. And the big thing is services provided by the school are supposed to make you be successful. In high school, we're doing everything to make sure that you get a decent grade and you to be after school, okay? You working on that class is your responsibility, but we're supposed to help you, push you in a positive direction. Now, college is completely different, okay? In college, you must identify with the Office of Disability Services. That can have different names depending on the school. Usually it's called Disability Supports or Disability Services. So what does that mean? When you go to college, nobody knows that you have a disability, okay? Nobody knows that you might have difficulty writing. Nobody might know that you have difficulty reading or doing math. It's a clean slate, okay? But if you want help in any realm of what you're used to getting, you need to go to the school with the proper paperwork and talk to them. Okay, you need to say, hey, this is my disability. What kind of support can I get? Primary responsibility for self-advocating or asking for help belongs to you, the student. Does not fall on the school. Professors are usually open to being helpful to you, but you have to be the one that initiates the contact for assistance. So when I was in graduate school, I remembered very well. First day of school, towards the end of class, kind of going over the syllabus, the teacher would be like, anybody have any special needs, circumstances, you need to come talk to me or email. That was kind of the key word for an instructor to say like, hey, if you have a disability or anything, like you need help with notes or anything, this is the time to talk to me about. The other thing too is once you're 18 and you're in college, your parents are not responsible for you and they cannot call the school. Okay, they're not going to email your professor saying, Johnny or Sally are having trouble. What can they do? Okay, it's all on you. Okay, you're an adult. You can allow your parent to have a certain level of access, but they need to get signed permission, and even then, that's really limited. Students have to advocate for themselves, so you have to speak up for yourself. And services provided are about access to education. So school, I don't want to be mean, they're not in the business to make sure that you're doing good in your classes. What they're in the business to do is make sure that you have equal access to the education. An example, if you have trouble keeping up with a class, I'm sure you've got it where you think a teacher's talking a mile a minute and you can't write and pay attention to the lecture. One of the accommodations you can get is access to notes, okay? So like you can get notes printed out for you ahead of time, or you can get those sent to you ahead of time where it's up to you to then print those and bring those to class. Or you can get or request note-taking assistance. So you get to pay attention to the lecture, okay? And then you get a copy of somebody else's notes and you get to go off of that. So it's helping you access the curriculum or the class material, but it's not making it super easy. I'm sure you've heard the term accommodation and modification. When we talk to you and your parents during an IEP meeting, these can be tossed around a lot and like, what are these big words? What are these big words? The general definition, an accommodation helps remove barriers that can be used for instruction or testing. They do not change the course expectation. So what does this look like in a classroom? Okay, so this could be assistance taking notes or access to PowerPoint notes. It could be access to book on tape. Okay, so you might have, if you had Miss Hardy, she's really good about taking notes in geometry. So you could always ask her, hey, Miss Hardy, can I get a copy of your notes? And she would have loved to give it. Okay, for testing, tests are administered in a testing center versus a classroom. You could also have a test read. So what does this, during high school, if you were in a class and the teacher said, hey, does anybody want to come out to have a test read? Okay, we're going to quiet room. That was an example of an accommodation. Accommodations, this slide, accommodations, they are still provided in college. That's what you can still get in a college setting. Now we're going to be talking about modification. A modification changes the content and what's required of you in class. So, an example, modification may include completing only about half of the work, where other students had to do the whole thing. That was probably more of a thing you had in elementary school or junior high. For you, an example of a modification would have been like guided notes where you only had to fill in like certain words. Students can be assigned preferential topics or shortened or less complex projects. Okay, so you might have been purposely given an easier subject when doing research in a class versus something else. Okay, you were provided word banks on assignments. Okay, and you also got a lot of extended time on writing assignments. Okay, so whereas everybody else might have had a due date Tuesday, your teacher would have said, as long as you get it in by Friday, you're good. So that's an example of a modification. In test, you were provided a word bank on a test. Also, usually your freshman, sophomore year, you continue to get a reduced number of questions on a test. So instead of having like 4 multiple choice, you would have like 3. And then the test questions sometimes might have been reworded or kind of like chunked, so kind of put together with similar ones. So those are some examples. So just as a reminder, in college, you can get accommodations. You are not allowed to get anything in a modification. So, accommodations that you can get in college. Common accommodations that are included in college can include extended test time for testing quizzes and an alternate test set. So what does that mean? That means that, like at Waubonsee, you would go to the testing center on the day of the test or maybe the day before. You might get 3 hours to take a test, okay? But you take it all then. The other thing too is that's an alternate site or a quiet place. So that falls under that second category of testing. You can have a test read or a quiz read to you. So in college, they're not going to have a other teacher in there reading a test to you most of the time. It'll be in an audio format on a computer where they'll feed the test to you and then it'll read it to you. You might have been used to getting enlarged text, so bigger words if you have visual problems. You might have note-taking assistance. So I know a very common accommodation in school is like having help taking notes so you can focus on the lecture. If you have a sign language interpreter or assistive technology, those are other common accommodations for students in college. So, if we are planning on going to Waubonsee Community College, what are the next? First, getting started with accommodations through the Access Center. First, you will set up what's called the initial meeting with the Access Center. That's what they call their Office of Disability Supports at Waubonsee Community. This meeting is going to be approximately 1 hour in length. You need to bring documentation supporting your request for accommodation or your request for help. This will either be an IEP or a 504, and that is your legal paperwork saying that you have a disability. So your senior year, your case manager will provide you with your paperwork, either electronically or paper, at your last IEP meeting, and they'll say, hey, hold on to this, just in case you want to go to school and get help, you're going to need that. So when you go meet with them that first time, they're going to ask for your last IEP. At this point, you're going to have to say what your disability is, okay? So your case manager should help you identify and know how to say, I have a learning disability, or I have it on. What are the next? If you want to get help in college, specifically at Waubonsee or other schools, you need to go to the Office of Disability Support. At Waubonsee, this is called the Access. They will set up a meeting with you once you make an appointment. This is about 1 hour. At this meeting, you're going to have to bring the required documentation, so a copy of your IEP or 50, and you're going to have to identify your disability. So most students have a specific learning disability or a learning disability in the area of like reading, writing, or so they're going to ask how that impacts you in the classroom. For example, if you have trouble keeping up with the lecture, they're going to say like what worked in high school, and most of the time you're going to say like, hey, I had help with notes, or I was used to getting help on a task, like getting a task read to me. So they will help arrange similar accommodations in college. Accommodations will be at this visa meeting. Okay, so that's what they call access at that school. It's called a Visa card. So you will have like a little credit card that has your accommodations on them. You can show it to the instructor. This is like, hey, this is what I have. The first meeting is about an hour in length. I think the second meeting is usually about 30 to 45. So if you have any questions about this, make sure you contact the Access Center when you go to sign up for classes at Waubonsee. If you have any questions prior to that, please make sure you contact your case manager and they can help you.